We have Doug. This is PineCreek Doug, right?
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Hey, Doug. How you doing?
Hey, Doug.
Paul.
Fellow Mennonite.
Yeah, it's good to talk to someone from the hood, the Mennonite hood.
Someone who knows where Steinbeck is. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rough and tumble streets of Saskatchewan.
You and I are
or Manitoba.
The few people who know where Winkler is and what Schmolfot is, and
that's right.
I'm taking a huge risk here tonight. I don't know if you guys realize that I'm in enemy territory.
How so?
If you're a fan of me and Doug, stop being a fan of me. I don't need you. I don't want you. That's just ridiculous.
We're like, have you ever seen him have a conversation on his channel with other people? This is not a guy who acts ever honestly or is ever looking for a conversation.
Well, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think that would be the case, but
I don't think Matt Dillahunty nor Jimmy like me that much. And this is their show, basically. So I'm grateful to Matt Dillahunty and I'm grateful to Jimmy to even allow this to happen.
I know that one of the things that we like best on the show is when people who disagree with us call in. So that's cool. Are we currently streaming on another channel?
No.
Okay.
Hand on the Bible that I don't believe in, but
fair enough.
I got some pragmatic type questions for you guys. I know, Eric, you haven't been in the game as long as Paul and I have, but Paul, are you getting bored of this?
Well, first I want to say I learned tonight that I think Eric's been in the game longer than me, at least. Am I getting bored of this? No. I mean, sometimes I get bored of. I'm bored of sometimes having to repeat the same answer to a given question.
Yeah.
But if this in general means trying to help people who believe as I used to believe move an inch further to true things, then no, I'm actually not bored. I'm still quite enthusiastic.
Okay. And I didn't realize, Eric, you've been in the game longer than me and Paul.
I don't know if that's necessarily an accurate statement. I've been an atheist probably longer than you and Paul, but I've only been in like online activism community for maybe about a year and a half.
Okay. And I guess my second question would be...
I deconverted in 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess a related question to that, like Paul, your answer was that you're bored of giving the same answers over and over again, and I know exactly what you're talking about. But you're not bored of leading people to truth or something like that. I think that's what you said, paraphrased.
Yeah.
What would you say if by leading someone to the truth that, let's say, God's not real, actually leads to a lower outcome, less well-being for them? Would you stop for them?
There have been individuals where I would have to know quite a lot about an individual to be able to make that assessment. So there have been people whom I know personally or whom I've been exposed to more than just like a phone call here, for whom I have chosen to not press the matter. That said, I've yet to come across anyone where I was like truly believed that holding to more true things than false things wouldn't improve their lives, at least.
Yeah.
I think
that's skirted. I don't know if that's skirted around. Like you're Doug. You're the direct answer person. So tell me if I was direct or not.
I think your answer was yes. You would stop.
There are certain people for which I would stop, but it would need to be a lot of data for me to stop.
Yeah. I understand.
That would be my answer too. It's the answer is yes, but it's highly situational. So if a person says, well, my life will be a little worse without this God, I can probably say, well, it might seem like that now. And it actually might be, you might lose friends and family. Like, I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness. JWs that leave and become ex-JWs, they tend to have short-term detriments in their life, namely their social circle and such goes away. But I think overall, though, in the long term, things will generally improve if they wanted to and they work for it. Now, if there was an individual who says, if I stop believing in God now, I will legitimately self-harm myself tomorrow, and I believe that person, then yeah, sure, I will stop right there and say, okay, you believe what you want to believe, have a nice day. So if the situation is extreme enough and I put stock in what that person is saying, then yes, I would stop and no longer pursue what I consider the truth of that person. I would simply let them go.
Yeah, like when people ask me why do I or did I kind of off it now. I don't really do religious stuff that much. But when I did, people ask me, why are you doing this if you don't believe in God anyhow? And I'm sure you guys have got this question over and over again. Boy, for people who don't believe in God, why you keep talking about it, right?
Had it tonight, yeah.
That was our first call, I think, yeah.
And the typical answer, and I didn't hear it, but my guess is you said because it impacts on people's actions and how they vote and that sort of thing. So that's what I've been concentrating more of. Who cares if you believe in God? The real issue is, what do you do because of it? Not even so much what do you think or believe because of it, but what do you actually do because of it? And that's why I shifted.
That's actually not the answer we gave, Doug.
Oh, okay.
The answer we gave was both personal for us, because we both wish that people had reached out to us sooner and stop believing false things because of the impact to our own lives of what we were doing to ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I missed that. But what things did you do to yourself that was bad?
For me,
go ahead.
Yeah, for me, back when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I gave up on college. I gave up on understanding myself, seeking relationships when I was a teenager and even in my early 20s. I forgoed and skipped many things that I consider to be normal development steps for a human, in deference to my God, in deference to the religion, and in deference to the organization. So I missed out on quite a lot of things based on the religious belief as I was growing up, and I don't want to see other people miss on those things as well.
Okay. How about you, Paul?
That's kind of my thing.
Oh, well, many things. One is that I definitely made choices about my family life, and I'm not going to go into specifics, but I definitely made family life related choices that I wouldn't have made otherwise if I didn't believe that God was telling me to override what my own moral intuitions or ethical standards would have told me to do. I made vocational choices. I made choices with my money. I made choices in ways I raised my children. There's just a whole people who I would or wouldn't associate with, for example. So those are all personal things. I think we did in our answer say there are, of course, I believe that there's meta factors that when you spread these choices over a voting group, for example, yes, those are impacts, but that's not personally why I do it. So
yeah,
I don't know if is that a good enough answer?
You're making me laugh, Paul, because
wait,
you don't need my approval. But I agree.
Oh no, I do know, Doug, that you one of the things I appreciate about you is that you slice through when people are giving evasive answers.
Yeah. No,
and
that wasn't evasive.
The only reason for my evasion is that there's certain personal things I don't want to talk about on air. So
yeah, I understand. And one of the big ones, and I think you and I can relate, is that we both have a Mennonite heritage, and it was very much us versus them. I mean, even the Anglicans in my hometown weren't real Christians because they were Anglican and that sort of thing. And so when I left Christianity, that stopped, and I think that, or at least lessened, and the same happened to you. But here's what I will say to that. I see in the atheist community a lot of us versus them. A ton of it. And a lot of it is down political lines, especially, or ideology, like the trans movement is a huge one. If you don't agree with certain things with the trans issue, you're an outcast, sort of thing. And there's other issues as well. And so, like, atheism is not immune from this.
But atheism also isn't an organizing principle, right? We actually had a caller earlier in the show that asked a very similar question to that regarding they were a right wing. They hold right wing political views, but are an atheist, and they were struggling to find community. I actually thought of you. I was like, oh, you should find he's someone I know who's. I wouldn't know if you categorize yourself politically on the right, but I know that on certain issues you would
Oh
you
yeah,
would
no,
find yourself more right leaning than
yeah,
than an average
I'm right.
atheist out of the basket.
Yeah, so if that person's still
Yeah.
listening,
Um,
he can contact me if he needs fellowship, and maybe he can come to my poker night.
mm,
But
yeah, it's like
if he's struggling
Minnesota,
with
not
if
where
he's
you are,
struggling
but
with community, that's his fault. I mean, he's just not trying hard enough.
yeah. But I think you would agree, Doug, that whether you believe in God or not is not an organizing principle per se.
Not a what? Organized principle?
Not an organizing principle. Like it's not something you can really build a community
Oh
around.
yeah, you're right. Like, and this is why I think a lot of times when ex-Christians here in the United States leave Christianity and become atheists, they cling on to some type of political endeavor to bring meaning to their life. And it's because atheism sucks at community building, because there isn't a weird fantastical claim to rally around. Oh, you believe this too? Oh yeah, we're the same. So it has to be replaced with something else that gives them some meaning, and I feel good about myself because I'm making a difference in the world.
I think Eric and I would nod at that. Eric,
Yeah, I think I would be in general agreement with that. I think we're all in agreement that atheism is not itself a kind of like an anchor for a community to kind of gather around. You probably will have certain individuals of certain other alignments outside of the religious belief that do cohere and do form these groups. I think just probably here on the line and various other channels, they're all going to have kind of like their niches and kind of what they've like congealed around. But yeah, it's a community to community thing. So you could probably find communities out there that will claim to be atheists, but then also say we also accept X, Y, and Z, and then you can find that group out there. But yeah, for on its own, yeah, atheism is just kind of just a independent thing. Doesn't really matter. I'm mainly here to talk to theist folks and to have my positions tested and to test theirs back, and that's kind of like what I like to do. Outside of that, I don't really care about much else. Like I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, so I don't have like super strong political views, and the political views that I do hold, I don't really like articulate very well because I don't, I didn't grow up doing that. It's kind of the thing I shy away from. But for the most part, that's why I usually focus on the religious aspect of it, because I'm an atheist and I like talking about religion. So I tend to focus in on shows that will also have that additional attribute there, shows that like to talk about and confront religious ideas, not just the atheist part.
Yeah, my problem is that, you after going through the Kalam cosmological argument for 1,000 times, after talking about the inner witness of the Holy Spirit and doing the outsider test for faith on that 1,000 times, you learn that there's certain individuals that it's not going to make a difference. And you learn other individuals where it does make a difference. There's probably something underlying that's the real cause other than the arguments. And it's a small percentage of people who I think can be more dead inside and be totally emotionless, not care about losing community, and just, oh, that makes sense. I changed my mind. It's so rare that happens.
I guess it depends on what you mean by rare. I mean, I have comments every day from people who say that I was part of their journey out, and I can't assess whether or not some of that was emotional or not. But what I do, I think I do a pretty good job of being rather emotionless in the way I present it.
Yeah.
So
you're like me.
I guess that's all I can do, right?
Yeah, but I correct me if I'm wrong and see if this is your experience, but I see within the atheist community, well, there's no such thing really, but a lot of people, it's usually an issue that really doesn't have to do with evidence. It's like I actually agree with Frank Turek that a lot of people were hurt in the church, that they weren't accepted for who they are or something. And that was the impetus to leave. And then, oh yeah, actually the New Testament is not reliable either. Yeah, see, I'm right. I do have good justification for leaving Christianity. And let me ask you this, Paul, because I'm really curious on your answer on this one. over the years, I feel like I've been used as a tool by the atheist community to get back at those really evil Christians for what they have done. And so they cheer me on. Yeah, you trounced them, PineCreek. Do you get that sense at all?
I mean, every day I get people who wish I was more aggressive, because that is what they want. Is they want the blood sport. They want they want their side to be right. Like any given debate, right? And you see it in political debates too. People are more going in wanting to see their guy win than to come out with truth, right? You want your side. You always want your side to win. And so I get that criticism all the time that I'm actually not far enough. I'm not pugilistic enough. I'm a little bit too dispassionate. So I might be the wrong person to ask that question, because no, I don't actually. I feel like atheists wish. So if I want to give you some common ground here, I do feel like atheists wish that I was more pugilative, so that they could have that feeling that you are describing.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, no, you and I are kindred spirits, I think. Like even look at the poll you had earlier, 95% of people listening right now are probably atheists. They're here because they want probably guys like you and me and Eric to trounce on theists and just show how, wrong they are. I wish there was it was flipped, that 90% of the people here were theists. Maybe it's much higher than what the poll suggests, but from the polls I've conducted, it's probably pretty accurate that most people here are atheists and they just want to hear the one or two.
But isn't that just pure? Isn't that always going to be the in-group, out-group? Set atheism aside, whatever your in-group is, don't you always just want to other the out-group?
Yeah.
Isn't that just part of human nature?
Yeah, I agree. It's human nature, but it's I guess a type of human nature that we need to push against.
But it's not a unique criticism of atheism per se.
No, that's my point, that it's not unique.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yep.
I think I'm preaching to the choir.
All right.
Here.
Go ahead, Eric.
I wanted to maybe address something you said a little bit earlier. How you said that there's some people who deconvert and they start with emotional reasons, and then they later come to some justification for the emotional decision they made. And I agree that probably happens in a lot of different cases. But I see that you can start a journey with a bad step, like let's say an emotional step in your decision-making process. We can call that a bad first step. But then later on, you can start taking better steps. And as you learn and grow and learn and research and such, you can eventually come into a position that you can call justified, even though that first step you took was emotional.
Yeah,
because you can start with an emotional step and still be onto something true. And for some of us, myself especially, that was a choice I didn't have, because as a Jehovah's Witness, no college, no philosophy, no logic. I didn't even know what the word apologetics was, or even if that word existed. I didn't know what a logical fallacy was. I had no toolkits when I started deconverting. I had to work off of just intuition and emotion. And the start of that journey, and that's what some Christians try to capitalize on and try to invalidate what some people go through and the positions they reach, because they'll say, "Oh, you started off on an emotional step," then that somehow invalidates everything you did afterwards. But some of us had no choice in that, and I say it's fine for people to do that. It's fine to be angry at God, because that'll knock God off that pedestal, and you'll start asking questions about that God. And then hopefully those questions lead into better processes, about better epistemology, and you'll eventually grow and become firmly established in your non-belief or in some new belief, and you'll have much better justifications for it. So I think that it's perfectly fine for people to do that. And I'm referring to myself, because I had no choice. I had no tools to work with when I left.
Yeah, and I
agree.
agree.
Really
I agree.
concern me at all. People like that.
I agree, Eric, and it definitely happens the other direction as well, and that theists don't want to admit that, if you want to convert an atheist to Christianity, for example, find the ones who've just gone through bankruptcy court or divorce or have an addiction problem. Like evangelicals, if you're listening right now, if you want success in evangelism, target those type of atheists, because they are they will succumb to it because they need love, they need security, they need something.
I've been at more than one door as a Jehovah's Witness where either myself or my partner will detect some type of emotional vulnerability, like, oh, your boyfriend just broke up with you, or oh, you have a loved one who just died, or oh, your house is getting foreclosed on. Hey, that's your in. You can hook into that person and start really appealing to their wants and needs and desires and emotions, and it can definitely go the other direction too. But I think with the religion, and I'm pretty sure you probably agree with me here, with religion, there is no sound logical position argumentation you can have once you finish that journey, because I'm pretty sure, I don't put words in your mouth, but I've yet to come across a sound and valid, or valid and sound argument for the existence of God or for why a certain religion is true. So we do have religious folks who start that emotional journey, and some will get to a destination and say, I have this argument or I have this evidence. But we look at that and we go, with street epistemology and such, we start picking it apart and start chopping down justifications and confidence in it. So I think that's kind of maybe the main difference in that, with the atheist journey, you can start emotionally, reach non-belief and have good reasons for your non-belief, but I've yet to see a person reach belief and have a good reason for it. So, and if there is one out there, I don't know about it yet. I'm not saying there isn't one, but it could be the case.
It's typically the intuitive argument. I don't think theists would frame it this way, but it's basically they can't imagine us existing without some type of intelligent designer. That's basically what it boils down to. They can't imagine even writing a screenplay of a universe existing without a God in it. It's just beyond their imagination. And I think you two and myself would agree that there is one type of miracle that we believe in, and that is we're here talking. Like, we ultimately came from hydrogen and helium, and here we are talking. And I think we as atheists have to admit that this is extraordinary. And this is the type
that just comes down to your definition of miracle, because of course, if
I think it's a
miracle,
if a miracle can occur without the supernatural, and the miracle is just something that's like just so spectacular, like obviously we're made out of these base
low
elements.
Probability event is what I meant.
It became more complex. So for certain definitions of miracles, sure, we can agree on that.
And I think there's going to be a lot of atheists. Oh yeah, I was just going to say there's probably a lot of atheists who just heard what I just said and will push back hard against it. No, you can't even concede that. I mean, you can't even understand that point of view. And I think that type of thinking has to stop and say, no, you can understand that. You can disagree with it, but you can understand that intuition. So, but anyhow, thanks for taking my call, guys.
All right, Doug. Have a good evening, and be well.